It looks like we already have it started.
There was something else started, but I don't think that was the recording.
Says
Yeah,
it's recording.
yeah, mine says recording too.
Okay. Well, it says it's we want it recording, so that's good. And we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm gonna a lot of times we'll do a set of introductions. I think a lot of us already know each other. And I'm really happy that you're here. But I'm worried, of course, at how long it could take us to do multiple demos and how much trouble we can get in doing live demos. So we'll go ahead and give it a shot. I'm super happy to have you here and really happy to have you pipe up and share your experience and uh, just we're all learning this. This is changing a lot about the way we think and the way we work. And you've been learning things, and I've been learning things, and I've been doing things right and wrong, and you've been doing things right and wrong. So very happy to learn from you as we go. Oh, we want to turn on captions. That's the other thing we want to turn on is captions. Does anybody see where to turn on captions?
As long as one person turns it on for themselves, then the transcription will be enabled. So
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
watching the captions right now.
Oh, okay. And I think yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's how it works. And I think the transcript comes through anyway, because we're recording. So that's good. Thank you very much. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Randy Fay. I'm one of the maintainers of the DDEV project, and DDEV is our example world today. Um, the um, the things that we're going to do are encouraging you to contribute to DDEV using these techniques, but there's nothing that we're going to do that is not relevant to every other environment and project that you work on. So let's go through. I put together a slide deck, and I'm not sure whether it's helpful or not. I'm always suspicious of slide decks, but they help me try to remember um, to cover the things that I intended to cover. So that's the reason that I'm using it. And we'll switch back and forth to code. The core of what we want to do, besides just covering the basics and like how you can keep Claude Code or any AI from going off the rails, are to try to do these live demos. And we might be successful with them. The three things that I chose, and I don't know that I'd be really surprised if we get to do three of them, but there are three issues that have been annoying us for some time and that we really intend to fix, but they're not that big, and they haven't gotten done, and so they keep dropping to the bottom. And so that's the idea there. But hopefully we'll be successful in doing those live demos, or at least maybe we can get started, get a PR started, or understand the problem better, which is understanding the problem better and understanding possible approaches to the problem are a couple of the major reasons that we use this new and excellent tool. So again, feel free to poke in anytime you want. Is anybody using Claude Code? I'll bet you some of you are using it, or are you using other things of that type? You can speak up, or you can chat, or anything you like to do.
Well, Randy, I use Copilot in PHP Storm. That's the closest I get to it.
Yeah. I use Copilot sometimes. It pales in comparison.
Oh, I'm dying to see.
It's in fact, I used it last night when I ran out of I ran out of tokens in Claude Code, and I used it to continue on, and it just really paled in comparison in terms of quality. But the key thing is what I'm going to show is the interactive ability, which I imagine is similar to what Chris is saying, using agents in his CLI app. So there are more than Claude Code that let you actually use active agents in the code and do things on your computer. But to me, that's the life-changing thing, really, really important. So Claude Claude can actually work on your machine with your permission. You give it permissions to do actions, and you give it permission to make changes, but you can actually give it permission to create a project or run a project or those kinds of things. And we will actually do that in one of the ones that we're going to do. Selwyn, I'll tell you what it means to run out of tokens in a minute. It's one of the disadvantages of at least the normal setup, or the $20 a month setup that I have, is that if I use it for intensely for a couple of hours, they shut me off and tell me that I can't come back for 4 hours or something like that. So, and you can use a different billing technique than that, and you can use a higher level subscription than the $20 subscription. But I don't want to, just like we don't want to let AI run wild, I also don't want to let it run wild with our budget. So, we're going to talk about best practices in general, and a number of techniques that you can use. So Claude Code is really like a pair programming assistant, and a lot of people compare AI to a junior developer, and it really is. It's AI, as you know, is kind of stupid. It has, and it's also really, really, really smart. It's predictive, which means it's great. It knows how to do computer languages exceptionally well, but it can be really stupid. I think all of you have had the experience of it being just frustratingly stupid. But you can, like a junior developer, if you're mentoring, if you think of yourself as a mentor to the AI, you can go a lot of places. And just like mentoring a real person, you can learn a lot by mentoring. Like, there's a lot of things that you know as a mentor that you haven't ever said out loud before, that you haven't ever dealt with directly. And that is a fundamental thing that goes on. So if you treat it as if you're mentoring the thing, and you help your junior developer to find its way to simplify the problem, to get into the right place in the code base, that's helping you. And that is a social change. For me, that's a social change, not just like having this great assistant that knows that knows how to write code, that knows how to write predictive code, is great. But the whole interaction process, for me, to be able to mentor the thing, to find the way to do what needs to be done, is quite impressive. And it does exceptionally well with the the whole conversation approach for it to, in a lot of cases, it does actually seem to understand what you're saying, which is pretty amazing. It works because it's predictive. It works so well with computer languages, and it has, it has had so many languages stuffed into it in its training set. So language, computer language, which is trivial compared to human language, computer language is something that it really, really excels at. And it can do pattern recognition. The other day, I was having it build a test for an add-on that I was working on, and I said, and it wrote a test, and I didn't like the test, and I said, use the pattern that you see in this test, and it immediately rewrote it using that pattern, and I was quite happy with that. So it's pretty good at big level patterns, and it's actually not bad at recognizing the existing conventions in code generation. So if you you will sometimes see it do something that you don't like or that doesn't work the way you're used to working, and if you say use the conventions demonstrated in X or in the docs, it will come around to that. I mean, it has that, even though they're very general conventions, even though they're unstated conventions, it can do great. Someone says, make sure you say please and thank you. I do all the time.
Right? Isn't that funny how you start?
I
You do that. You
I
say
do it all the time. And not only that, but it always says, "Oh, that's fantastic. You're right." You know, that's, it always has that kind of stuff. And that's even though in our Claude.md, we say, don't do that. So we have that written into it. We'll look at our Claude.md in a bit, the standing instructions to Claude. But even though we have it written in there, don't use flowery language. Don't compliment me all the time. It still does all the time. And when it compliments you saying, oh, yes, that's a great answer, it's lying because it doesn't know.
Right.
It's just saying it's great because you said it. So I guess that's something that you learn from human interactions too, is that I don't know, people.
It's the ultimate echo chamber, isn't it, Randy?
Well, there's that. So that is a dangerous thing. It will always compliment me on what on the approach I tell it to do, and that does not make it come out successfully. So
bear in mind, there's one other possibility that maybe you're just that good, and it really it's not being flowery. It's just noticing and acknowledging.
yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
The test creation I've had pretty good luck with, although with one of the features that I worked on recently, it just generated so many tests, and I was so happy with all of them that we ended up with too many new tests, and then Stas had to look at them. But it was it was very, very easy to get it to do tests. Documentation writing, I find it to be questionable, although I certainly will let it write docs if they don't matter. But I mostly haven't liked the style in general. So it's maybe I can learn how to do it better. I find that it says too much, and it says it in ways that are probably intended to please your boss or something like that, as opposed to documentation that is intended to solve problems for users. That's actually the same. I worked on this presentation with it, and I found that I had to just cut out reams and reams of stuff that was intended to make it look like somebody's fancy thing, but didn't communicate the things that I was going to have time for or be ability to work at. So
Do you think that's the kind of thing you can prompt your way out of, though, Randy? Like, do you think that you could just be more specific in how you tell it to write your documentation, like no more than 1,000 words, or do you think it's just a failure of the GPT?
if I had given I gave quite a set of prompts. I did a PRD for this presentation, and I did not limit it. I did not tell it, hey, look, silly, we only have an hour and we're doing a live demo. If I had limited the number of slides or something like it, put a limit on it, then it might have been better. But I'll be interested to learn. And if you find a path on that, Chris, I would love to I would love to know about it, because that is one of the general problems, I think, with AI, is that it has this, you ought to write things that will make everybody think you're impressive, as opposed to you ought to you want to write things that will communicate successfully to such and such an audience.
Yeah, I find it when I'm writing, for my book, it's really verbose, and it'll suggest a sentence or two, and I'll go back and make it into a short phrase because it's just way too verbose.
Yeah, and fancy verbose. And I think there may be a way to prompt your way around that. So someone asked, doing a walkthrough of the documentation site. I assume you're talking about Claude's documentation?
No, DDEV's documentation site.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
it's just an aside. I thought I probably should have sent it to you separately.
So I always use the search at the top. And
Yeah, me too.
there I go. So it works mostly, but it's easy to adjust that if it finds the wrong thing. It's really easy to add a weighting on it. And I do that sometimes when I do a search and I find that the wrong thing is at the top. It's really easy to change the weighting, and a PR from you is very welcome if you see that happen. But yeah, the balance between good documentation and too much documentation is a very difficult one.
Just, while we're talking about documentation, I think, and sometimes the intent is there, right? And delivering it is not always the same as the intent.
Yeah, and of course, that those are community docs, and one of the problems with community docs is a little similar to problems with AI. Everybody wants to have their solution in the docs, but sometimes that's just too much in the weeds for everybody else. And so keeping that balance where most people get their problem solved, but where people don't get lost, is a pretty hard problem. So Claude's limitations, context is basically what the AI knows about right now and what it's going to be able to do with that. And with a large project like DDEV, that context can get to be really huge and costly, and that means that you use up your tokens faster. So those, when you do something with AI, all of your things that you're telling it to do get turned into tokens and shipped to the AI and worked on there. And that's what you get charged for, is those tokens, or that's what you run out of if you're on a fixed plan like I am. And of course, Claude may not know about what's really going on in the world, but you can tell it to do a web search. And all AI does hallucinations. So on this, I was just looking this morning on this presentation, and this presentation at the very end, it added links that don't exist to nothing, right? It just like made them up. So it, it said, here's all these beautiful looking links, and it just made them up. They don't exist. So it's not very hard to solve that, but you've got to notice it. And that you've read about that in the news, and you've had it happen to you. And then as we were talking about the time usage or token usage is an issue. The reality is that after I've been working hard on a feature for 2 or 3 hours and it says, sorry, time's up. You can start again at 9 p.m. That's actually not that bad because I probably needed to stop anyway. And so it's not that bad to have a forced change of context or to go review and fix what it's done, that kind of thing. So that's not all that bad. And I have to confess that sometimes I switch to a different AI when that happens. So, okay. So, despite what everybody says, Claude is trying to enhance you. Maybe it will be our future overlord, but you're in charge. Don't forget that you're in charge, and certainly don't take what it says for granted. We all have horror stories about that, and we have to keep track of that. So to get started, what we're working with today, I'm not going to show how to install or anything like that. But for what we're doing today, we have DDEV installed. We have an IDE that we'll use, and we have Git and GitHub. And Claude Code is easy to install. And for JetBrains IDEs, for example, there's a very straightforward way to install. It doesn't really, all it is a terminal app, but if you install the plugin for JetBrains, it does help because then it can show you the diff that it wants to do. And that's the fundamental thing it does, is show you the diff. And I do like that. And of course, you need an account for this. I don't think there's any free access to this. And if you don't know what that you're working with, you're at a disadvantage, of course. So I think we've talked about these things already. And I've said how happy I am with the ability to express what the problem is in detail before beginning work on the problem, which I wouldn't necessarily have the discipline to do myself. Had I had something to make me do that all my life, I've done it for difficult problems in my life, but I haven't done it for like every single one. And with Claude, you basically have to think, that whole thing of, here is my mentee, might not know anything, got to give them the background, got to get them set up. And it's excellent. Like I said, for this presentation, I told Claude to make a PRD. I gave it a number of prompts, and then I told it to make a PRD that explained in detail what the project was. That's pretty successful, and you can actually use that in corresponding with a tool that Oprah Shaw introduced me to called Taskmaster, that continues to break down and track the tasks that you're working on. I'm not going to show that today because we're going to be far enough off into the weeds. The other key thing is I use Git commits. Sometimes I let it make them, sometimes I don't, but I use Git commits at key points along the way, because even though it's pretty good if you tell it to revert the stupid thing it just did, it's not perfect, and I would rather have control of sequence points where I know what's really going on. Okay, so we're not going to do each of these things, but these are two give you an idea of what can be done. So you can say something like, explain DDEV's project and project structure and architecture. Actually, we can just do that right quick and see what we get. So here we are in GoLand, and we'll pop up we'll pop up Claude code here, and we'll see what we get. A lot of times when you're trying to understand something at a smaller level, it really is excellent. One of the problems that I have is that it scrolls off the screen when you're doing stuff like this. But here it is. It says standard Go project architecture. Here's things. Um, um, then it talks about configuration system and Docker integration. And that wasn't that helpful, but a follow-up question, and I think follow-up questions are fundamental all the time. A follow-up question is to say, explain the Docker integration in more detail. How is Docker Compose used? What are the key files? So the drilling down technique is really fundamental to that. So some other examples, like where is the main? Sometimes in an IDE, you might be able to find it really quickly, especially if you're good with your IDE. But Claude will tell you right away. Telling it to trace execution is a great idea. Can work. These are just ideas of things that you can do that work really well. Here's a good one. Like if you wanted to work on, let's say there's something about DDEV start that annoys you, and you just want to see if you could make it better. You could give it a very easy prompt like that, and it will probably do it right. And you could probably say, give me a walkthrough of what it's actually doing and that kind of thing. And it's and then drilling down, like I say, so it's already found that the correct file, which if you were new to the code base, you might have still been working on trying to find that. So this is not bad at all. So here's, it says go to start.go, 24 to 160. It says the Cobra, it uses Cobra. I'm always a little baffled by Cobra, although Stas always understands it completely. But I could say if I looked at that, so let's just I'm going to get too far off in the weeds. But what I would do now, like if I were looking at that file, I would say, I don't understand all of the Cobra things that are going on. Explain in detail what's going on here with Cobra. So that is a kind of a follow-up that I would use, but I don't want to get lost in that. So it's really, really excellent if you give it very specific tasks to do. Show me all packages that import Docker util. Find functions that create Docker containers. These kind of things are great questions. Asking about how DDEV does error handling is excellent, and logging, ideas like that. And here is the Cobra question that we would have asked. And then when you're working in a code base, and especially when you're working in a code base that you might not be fully familiar with, and you might not know the patterns that are usually used, telling Claude to follow the DDEV patterns, or actually give it a more specific prompt than that, use the patterns that are seen in this piece of the code when you're generating code. So prompts like that are super, super useful. So, okay, so we got ourselves in a half hour to where we're actually going to try to do it. Any comments or your experience or add-ons to things that I've been saying? And feel free to use the chat anytime, of course. Well, let's try it. Let's see if we can solve a problem. This is definitely, like every live demo, is not guaranteed to be successful. But we're going to try 3 of these things that have been sitting around in the DDEV issue queue and that we haven't really wanted to work on, but we should probably try to work on it. So for FrankenPHP, we're going to get it to read the issue and explain to us what the problem is and how it might be solved. Now, Stas has already commented in the issue with hints about how to solve it. Here's the issue right here. In our current head version, if we use Stas's FrankenPHP add-on and you do a DDEV launch, there's just a plain mistake in how it's implemented, or a sloppiness in how, I'm sure I was the one that implemented it and didn't put quotes in there that belonged. So Stas has given it hints, but there's also, Stas also has a suggestion that we could do better just in how to handle that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and say to Claude, let's start working on this issue. I want to create a fix for the issue, so go read it. Before implementing anything, let's talk about the problem and ways to solve it. Explain the basis of this issue.
Piper. Okay, Randy, it's
Yeah.
okay. Randy,
Okay.
question for you. Like in Copilot, often you have to start a new session. Do you have to do this with Claude Code? Like you've been asking it some kind of general questions, or is it? You think
So the there are 2 answers. One is, how many tokens am I using up in context?
right?
And so I would have done a /reset or a /clear if I were worried about that with what we've been doing.
Okay.
But in the general approach here with what we're doing here, because hopefully I have enough tokens to do an hour's worth of work, I think we should be fine. But so there's 2 things. One is clearing the context for me, which usually hasn't been that beneficial, and the other is clearing the context so that I'm not using up more tokens. So there's 2 different things there. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
I do find GitHub Copilot's situation both good and bad, that whole start over now problem. But it seems to throw away all the context when you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's our discussion from it. So it says the problem is in the launch script, and in this situation, DDEV primary URL is not quoted, and so we end up with a syntax error when that gets replaced with nothing. So you have to do it better. DDEV primary URL. So why this happens is a good description of what this is. And the solutions here, variable validation in advance, quoting the expansion, safer parameter extension. I mean, these are all, to do the simple solution, this is really quite an excellent statement. And the recommended fix here is completely adequate for the existing situation. And we could just tell it to implement this and we'd have a PR right now. And I think we will, because I think this is good enough. But I have another question to ask it, because Stas said this here. So that is a perfectly fine thing. Oh, what I wanted to do before we fix this. I hope we can do it. I think we can do it. We're going to have it demonstrate the problem because I think that's an amazing thing for it to do, especially compared to what you can do with like GitHub Copilot. So we're going to try to do that, have it demonstrate the problem before we fix it. Obviously, in this case, it has explained to us very clearly what the problem is, and it has correctly diagnosed exactly what we should do with it, and we can create a PR. And it might be the only thing that we get done today if I go have it demonstrate the problem. But this is really good. So it's saying the current behavior is how DDEV primary URL is calculated, and manual setting would mean overriding it, like in the config.yaml or perhaps something like that. Here is a classic error of almost all AIs, is they've learned so much context they have in their training. Version 3.6 has been obsolete. The use of the version tag has been obsolete for years now, but that still shows up all the time. So this is probably something like what Stas was suggesting there, is to add a Docker Compose file that could override it, or add a config setting that could override it. So that's a good answer. Let me just comment on the original answer on what the solution was and the recommended solution. I find that sorry, I'm lost here. So here's the problem analysis. This actual AI output is good enough that it could have gone into the issue, and it would have added value. I find that many things, if you use the web UI to let GitHub their code thing create a PR review, I have not necessarily seen it have value or be adequately readable and clear like this is. And so I'm very skeptical of letting these things add to an issue or a PR something that I haven't already seen, because it just clutters up the issue queue. So this is but this is of good enough quality that I could have said, add this statement, and it can do this using the GH command. I could have said, and I'm going to say, your problem analysis is correct. Add it to the issue as a comment, but do not discuss the Docker Compose approach to setting the environment variable.
That's crazy.
So let's see. I think it should be correct. Sometimes when you have taken it in a different direction a little early, it is kind of a problem, but it does. So it's going to ask our permission, and I don't give it in general. I don't give it full permissions to do everything, like especially using the GH command or using Git. I don't tell it, yeah, you can go do that. So here, that's a good answer. And I have three choices. I can say, yes, do that. Or I can say, don't do that and let me always GH issue comment. No, I'm not going to do that. So, and number three, you often need to do, but we're going to do that. And it has a bug. It does this all the time. It has a bug in how it set up that statement, but it will fix that. And it just was a quoting problem. And I think we'll find that it has been quite successful here. So let's reload here. And so here is the thing that it just showed us. And that, it was a good analysis. So for it to add it is excellent. And normally I would have told it to give itself credit for this at the bottom. So this is the whole thing. When you hear agent all the time, it seems meaningless, but it's not. This is what being an agent means, is it actually did something for us. So now let's go on, and we're going to do something a little more complex here. And I'm going to say, I'd like to see the problem demonstrated in a trivial project. And so I'm going to say, do a make to get current head built, create a trivial DDEV project in /temp/launch bug, add the Stasa dev Franken PHP add-on. I probably don't need to tell it how to do this, but I'm going to say DDEV add-on get Stasa dev DDEV Franken PHP, start the project, and show the problem with DDEV launch. So let's see how it does. I think it'll do pretty well. It's going to have to ask permission to work in that directory, and see how it's done a good job here of breaking down the plan based on what I was wanting to do. So I gave it a plan in plain English, but it broke it down into to-dos, which is quite excellent. So you see it doing the make there, which is what we need. So we get the current broken version. And now it should be able to ask permission to create a project. And feel free to comment or talk as it's working away. It's kind of fun to watch these things as they work, but we can talk too as we watch it go.
Yeah, Randy, did you commit the fix or?
No, I haven't even done the fix.
He
I
hasn't done
haven't
the
told
fix
it to
yet.
do
Okay.
the fix. I imagine that what's going to happen here is we're going to demonstrate the problem and we're going to tell it to make a PR, and that's going to be the end of the time we have for today,
Oh,
which
right.
is fine. Oh no, you don't suppose I don't have Docker going? But I do. Why would it not work? Oh, look it was starting it for me.
Oh, wow. That's insane. Oh, you don't have Docker ready?
Okay.
No problem. I'll start it.
Yeah, I started it.
Damn.
I know what I did. I updated Mac OS last night. That's why it wasn't running. So there you see it doing the normal things that you would expect on a DDEV config. It might have done something stupid there. See, it didn't need to give the PHP version, but it is a trivial project. It's doing what I asked for. And so look at here. So the DDEV Franken PHP tells that you have to use the generic web server type. And so it listened to that and fixed it. And now it's creating a basic index.php. And I'm going to have to tell it. I'm going to have to tell it another thing. I'm going to have to tell it how to see what goes on. Oh no, it'll break. I was going to say you can't see what the actual fix is. So now we see it doing a start because it has the things that need to be done in it now. And oh, why would that be? So it is stuck on something that I would have to look at that we probably shouldn't take time to look at, because what I'd like it to do is to implement the solution that it came up with and create a PR for it. So it wouldn't take very long to go and use the project that it created and solve this problem if it doesn't know what it is. Yeah. I'm going to say escape here. I'm going to say no and tell Claude, because I don't want to go on forever. I'm going to say go back to the DDEV project. Check out upstream. Check out a branch for the PR. Implement the solution you recommended. Commit the solution using a commit message based on the pull request template.md. And that's what I want it to do. Oh, I'm going to give it, these things are in the Claude.md. I'm going to tell it to check it out the way I always do. Today is the 21st. So it probably would have done this like this because we have it in the Claude.md, but that is you know, as much context as you can give it, the better it all is. So if you give it good instructions, it's less likely to go into weird places, and it's yeah, they have spent a lot of time coming up with discombobulating and those kind of things. Yeah.
I did
And
say Clauding for a second there too.
yeah, exactly. So here's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And so I'm going to say yes. I could say don't ask again for get fetch commands, but because they're easy, but I'm not gonna let it have that permission. I If you gave it, you know, when people talk about vibe coding all the time, and I think, as I understand what people are saying about vibe coding, um, it's just letting Claude or whatever just work away on something and find its way. And I'm not really willing to do that. Okay, so this has popped up the change that it wants to make in the IDE. So I'm going to change that right quick, get rid of this. And here's the change, which is the change it proposed. It's a good change. I'm going to say apply, which is the same as it would have been to say yes, do it. And now it's repeating to us what it did here. And if we had a little more time, we would tell it, we would fix the problem in the demo repo, and then we would have it test that. But we'll be manually testing this this PR anyway. So, we don't have time to test the fix, Claude. I guess we could have had it tested in another project, which would have been a good idea. But I know that all of you have other things to go on to, so I want to get through this one anyway. Oh, and so here's another thing about Claude. People love it, and sometimes it gets overloaded. And so sometimes it will be in this situation, and it will take forever for it to get, it looks like it got past it, which is good. So see, it went and found the pull request template. We have had in our Claude.md instructions about using the pull request template, and it's very inconsistent about whether it does it. But if I tell it explicitly that that's what I want, it's been fairly successful. So the inconsistency of what it does with standing prompts, like what you have in the Claude.md, and what it does when you tell it exactly what to do, is really that inconsistency is annoying. So here's what it's suggesting to do with the git commit. It did use the template the way I want it to be used. It did give itself notice. It told us that it was working on it, and yes, I do want to do it. And I don't let it push. So I will push this after it's done, and So here's here's what we wanted. And it's doing the regular checks that we have. Oh, I didn't get to the point in the presentation where I wanted to say that if you have static analysis, like we have Golang CI lint and Markdown lint and make docs checking here, if you have those things set up and you have tests and you have and you require Claude Code to do those things, then you're in a lot better place because it keeps it on the rails a bit more. If you have it run a test and the test fails, it's great. So I'm going to create this PR. I could have told it to create the PR, but I'm suspicious of that. And so here it did a good job on this. It does tend to push they push the standard GitHub empty template down onto the bottom here, so I'll delete that. And here's our draft PR to solve this. And the one thing that I didn't tell it to do, or it didn't remember to do, is fixes 7424. So there we went through the process, and we could have spent more time on it, and we could have done a less trivial example, but this is going to be a successful PR. It will get manual review. It'll be tested, and we will have that one out of our hair with a modest amount of effort. Let me just skip over here to the end. I'm always happy to hear what you've ended up with, what you've learned in these things. Get to the end here. The DDEV docs are out there for you. Claude's docs are out there for you. We'd love to have your contributions with Claude, especially if you keep it under control while you're doing it. Pay attention to it. I did take this free course from Coursera. It's free to audit. I found it very, very useful. I don't know how long it'll be useful because these things change so fast, but the Coursera Learn Claude Code was quite excellent. So I will stop. I know you have places to go, but I'm happy to stick around, and I would love to hear your thoughts and responses and anything else you want to say.
Absolutely amazing. That was fantastic. Thanks, Randy.
You bet. It is astonishing that it can actually do things for you, that it can make a test project and demonstrate a problem. It may need some help, like it needed help to get through that. But that kind of thing. So I'm working on an Upsun add-on, and I am going to, and Upsun is not something that I know a whole lot about. That's the new branding and the new focus that Platform has for their stuff. I'm not an expert. I'm not anything. I'm not even competent in their YAML files. And I had it create a number of test examples for that, and I'm going to have it create other projects that meet a number of things so that I can actually test my add-on with real Upsun projects. And I'm going to give it privileges. I'm going to let it actually push those up and do those. So it's fun. So what's up, son? There you go. I like it, Chris.
So Randy, my question is, where is the right threshold for you, right? Because this was put some quotes around a line, right? And it took us, 30 minutes to do while demoing it. I feel like Randy Fay without AI would have solved this problem in 3 minutes and had the PR up. So, but there are more complicated things where the AI really helps you. Like, how do you know where the threshold is of like when it's going to save you time and when it's going to actually take more time?
In this particular case, because Stas had already studied it and solved it, I probably could have done it in 3 minutes. And yeah, like I think and Stas could have done it in 30 seconds. But um, the general technique that we used would have worked for things that were 3 times this big. For things that were 10 times this big, we would have need to probably have a whole discussion with it. And I do that a number of times. I say, I'm working on a problem that looks like this, and I want to discuss it and figure out here are some guidelines of what I want to do. And then the next level up is to have it write a PRD. And of course, a PRD is just a fancified way of saying, I want a formalized description of what we're talking about here. And then as someone's asking about Taskmaster, it is a thing that uses AI to break up your problem into tasks, and it can read a PRD and turn it into tasks, and then it can walk you through those tasks, making sure that they all get um, Taskmaster. Yeah, Taskmaster is you'll find it very quickly, and you can do a Taskmaster in it. It sets up things, and once you've set it up, which is pretty easy, um, it it will you can talk. You don't even have to use the Taskmaster fancy commands. Um, you can just tell it in plain text that you want to work on the next one or something like that. So
But how does it interact with Claude? What's the connection?
so it is here. I can probably show you. Maybe I can't show you. It actually creates an add-on to Claude.md.
Oh, okay.
So here's the Claude.md. Here's our standing instructions to Claude. And part of this is written by Claude, and part of it has been removed by Claude. And I think this has, and the Taskmaster stuff got removed from it, but it must be in my personal or something. Let's see if it's in here. No, it's not in there.
I
Anyway,
think in your
it
autocomplete, I
integrates
just
pretty
saw
well.
claude.md.taskmaster. Is it like a separate file, maybe?
Um,
Claude.md.
Oh, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
What's
Yeah,
that?
that's in the Taskmaster directory, which I'm pretty sure should be. So this is the instructions. This is the instructions to Claude from Taskmaster about core commands and that kind of thing. And that's why when you use it, Claude can just um, use Taskmaster directly instead of you having to remember any Taskmaster commands. So it's Ofer Shaw showed me Taskmaster and encouraged me to use it, and it's pretty good. Although Claude is already pretty good at making to-do lists and sticking to them. But Ofer is right that it does need sometimes a little more structure, and when it saves those tasks and keeps them going, it can keep Claude on track.
Seems like there's also a lot of typing. Have you tried talking to it? Or
No, I haven't. I'm about as fast typing as I am talking, but I'll bet you that works. I haven't done it. Uh, I'm sure there's a way to do that, but it's I'm sure that you can also express the things that I'm telling it in other ways, and maybe more simple ways. But the very fact that I'm able to give it explicit instructions that are as explicit as I know how to say, using plain text, and it's able to respond to those and respond better the more explicit I am, is a great thing. So
thanks, Randy. This is great. I need to dash, but
I'm so glad to have you all come, and I appreciate it very much. And again, I'm happy to stick around if you have any other questions or responses or ways that you use it successfully. I'd be love to hear about it. So great to have you. Thank you so much. And I will turn off the recording.